Who could play Victor Von Doom?
Robert Downey Jr.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Me? I know who I am. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. What?
Man, when I heard this news, I wasn't exactly sure how to feel about it because, I mean, he's Tony Stark. And I know with this whole multiverse thing, it's to be expected that we're gonna see other variants of our heroes and these people. But I wasn't really expecting this. Now, I understand some people might be incensed by this because for them, Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark and he'll always be Tony Stark. I personally can imagine how it would kind of downplay the sacrifice of Iron Man if we just get him come back and we keep seeing him over and over again. It's almost as though there's no need to ever feel sad about Tony Stark dying because he'll just come back as another variant. Forget that other one. And just like that, his sacrifice was forgotten. When you can always jump through one multiverse to the other, then the meaning of those people who exist in any one of those multiverses ceases to matter for me as the audience anyway. Don't cry, you'll see him again, or we'll see him again. I want to be able to feel the sense of loss that the audience feels when they see a character die. It's different if they're wearing makeup and this is Star Trek where apparently you have multiple people playing different characters or different aliens, but if we're seeing Victor Von Doom played by Robert Downey Jr. and we're gonna see his face, his hair, his exact style, then for me it kind of undermined the presence of his character as is. And then people were making jokes saying something along the lines of, man, I can't wait to see Chris Evans coming back as Magneto. It does get a little bit annoying. I mean, this might not seem like a big deal because it's our chance to see Iron Man or Tony Stark being played as a miscreant.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
And now this character has successfully done both with the help of the multiverse. The multiverse for me is honestly a tired idea. It's everybody's excuse to be lazy. Nothing matters. It's basically a cop-out. Remember how they had this era where everything was a dream and hey, this entire thing that happened, it was all just a dream. And now it's to the point of making people severely irascible whenever they find a plot that ends up with that as the conclusion. That's the modern version of that, the multiverse. And it's this timeline and that timeline. You can just jump around to different timelines to the point where you don't even know which one is the original. And I think, I mean, this just may be me, and this is nothing against Robert Downey Jr. because I love him. I love him as an actor. He's really talented. But he already played a superhero. Now, what it does is if he's playing as a superhero or everybody else has this different variant because maybe somebody, I don't know, grew up on the street with him, and instead of it having been someone else, which would have caused the butterfly effect for Tony Stark to become who he is later on, maybe he was a friend with somebody who grew up next door to him who was not the original person in the first timeline, and that shifted his whole plot to become Victor Von Doom later on. So it's kind of a way of confusing people as well, because if you're always shifting from timeline to timeline and showing all these different variants, there's never any need for continuity. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but modern movies nowadays, they lack continuity. It's like they're not even trying. It's like it's not even across movies. It's within the same show, same episode, and everything. I've done reviews of Doctor Who and The Acolyte, and you see examples of this here. Even in Marvel itself, it's done the same thing with the whole thing with Nick Fury and his eye. Everyone forgot about that because they think, well, people have short attention spans and short memories, so if their brains aren't working at 100% capacity, why do we need to uphold that level of quality? They'll just eat it anyway and absorb anything Marvel. It's basically a marketing ploy. They know that people love Robert Downey Jr., so they're like, bring him back, bring him back. People liked him a lot. Well, we killed him off, and that really hit them where it hurts to the point where they're still talking about it now. But what if we bring him back and then shift it so they forget about Tony Stark and now they like Victor Von Doom? Because let's make him the villain, right? Yes, and he's of the lighter shade too, so it doesn't matter. It all works for us anyway. It's not about crafting this cohesive, engaging story anymore. It's about, hey, tickets, this person, let's do gimmicks, let's do cameos. Deadpool made fun of this, and it's just sowing confusion and nostalgia. Let's bring back Andrew Garfield as, I don't know, freaking Doctor Strange, and it's really stupid. It's annoying. I know they're trying to rake in cash from people, and I know there's people who are okay with this. At first, I was like, oh wow, it's good to see him again. He's still in the MCU, but if he's not wearing makeup, you know, what, are they gonna do some half-baked plot and then expect that Robert Downey Jr. being in there is going to be enough to pull the movie? It doesn't mean that the movie they're making is gonna be bad, but I can understand the consternation that some people have about it, because eventually, even the most diehard fans of Marvel are gonna get tired of being jerked around. Continuity and character development are the backbone of good storytelling. And if you're just bringing in someone as a gimmick, but you're ruining the continuity or nothing matters anymore, then why should we get invested? Now I know this seems like a speck of a problem in a piquant little meal that everyone's ingesting, and you won't really feel it go down with all the roughage that you're already ingesting, but I could see it leading to a bigger problem even if the movie does do well, where they're like, wow, this worked, let's do it again. Let's take somebody else that people really like, and they'll watch it just for that person's performance. Screw storytelling, right? Samuel Jackson is an exquisite actor, and he wasn't enough to save their TV show. They also botched my boy, and they basically retired him before they actually retired him, brought him back just to humiliate him, just like they did with David Tennant in Doctor Who. You can feel the desperation, and I think people are calling it out because it's so painfully obvious. They don't know how to be creative anymore, so they're expecting that a much-loved character, who was an actor, rather, that was playing another character, will just come back, and people will come back because he's back from the dead now, but in an alternate universe. And narratively, I think that it could work on some level. I don't think that it's necessarily at its core the worst idea to see another variant of Tony Stark having become Victor Von Doom, if that is in fact where they're going with this, and he's not wearing makeup and being a completely different person. Because if Tom Holland had to fight against this guy, which I'm guessing there would be some kind of drama infused with that, then yes, I imagine once he's unmasked, it would really screw with him, because he just said goodbye to what was essentially a father figure to him, other than, you know, Uncle Ben or Happy or who have you. But other than that, everything else surrounding it, it's setting up a very bad precedent. And there's already a lot that's been set up as bad precedents in Marvel, to the point where you kind of expect it from them now. And I love Deadpool and Wolverine, and I know spoilers, minor spoilers, but Deadpool, I mean, this was in the trailer, but Deadpool even thought that Marvel's success was incumbent upon his return and him being Marvel Jesus. It was a tongue-in-cheek joke in the show, because that's essentially what they're doing with characters now, and doing with actors apparently, except that Marvel didn't get the memo that this doesn't necessarily work with actors, unless you're returning them for iconic roles that they already had been playing. If they were gonna recast Hugh Jackman as somebody else other than Wolverine, people would initially be like, oh my god, it's Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman. I love him. Oh my god, though. Wouldn't this skibbity scat, he's playing Spider-Man now? I don't know. At this point, it just feels as though Marvel is just plodding along with all the endless characters in this gigantic catalog that they had. I don't know why they're fixated on this stupid multiverse thing. It's driving me insane. Like, something that really got me into Marvel, because I used to like Spider-Man and stuff. My father is the one that exposed me to a lot of this, because he had all the he had all the comics. And the ones that he had, there was one called The Impossibles too that he told me about that I didn't even know existed, which is probably what inspired The Incredibles. I could be wrong. But yeah, there's all these treasure trove of characters in the Marvel universe, and instead of making new movies and franchises with those, like what they did with Guardians of the Galaxy, and even Deadpool, didn't even know those characters existed. I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, I got my first exposure to those characters on the big screen with 20th Century Fox, or with Disney, Marvel, whatever, whoever it was. It doesn't matter. On the big screen is where I first saw a lot of these characters. So it's very rich to me that they're going backwards. I mean, yes, Von Doom we've seen him already in that Fantastic Four movie that everybody hates, and I only liked because Cole was playing in it, and I did like his character from the little bit that I did see of him. But yeah, he's had portrayals before, just like in Guardians of the Galaxy, where you're given other characters to come in and new actors to play them. I think it's smart for them to bring in new actors and fresh flesh. That sounds disgusting when I say it like that. But fresh people so that they can have a chance to be iconic with their role. So you're gonna have Robert Downey Jr. be iconic in his role as Iron Man and then as Victor Von Doom. It's already messy as it is because Kang, they just built up that whole thing with Kang, and because of their whole thing with the fiasco with Jonathan Majors, they're like, you know what, this is too much drama. We're just gonna leave you. Black lives do not matter in this scenario. Our asses do. So deuces, we're just gonna pretend you never happened. And who do we got next? The other villain. Remember this villain? We're just gonna write off Kang like nothing happened. You couldn't even recast Kang. Like, I mean, at this point, it would have been better because of how they built him up to recast him at this point. But they're just gonna flip it midway and just expect all of us to forget that that's what we were doing with Loki and with Ant-Man and with the MCU in general. It's just weird. And then the people screaming over this, I feel for them. I feel for their excitement, but this is the very reason why Marvel and Disney feel like they don't have to even try anymore, because the people will just eat whatever slop. It's like if you like somebody and they're speaking and they know you're not paying attention, and the guy or the girl is like, yeah, and I just killed a whole bunch of kittens in my basement last night. And you're like, oh my God, really? That's so amazing. Damn, you slay, man. Like, I mean, dude, that's what it kind of feels like. And there are people like my father who most of the Marvel stuff that come out, he likes. He's just a big fan of Marvel, so it doesn't really matter. He will point out some issues, like, I would have thought they were doing that with Kang, huh? Oh well, yeah, I'm excited for the next movie, and he'll just eat, like, he just reacts. That is just Marvel, it's entertaining, things go boom, pretty pictures, illustrations, and that is good enough for a lot of people, and that's fine. I'm not trying to throw shade at those people at all, because we're all different, we have different personalities and different likes. There's some people, though, who like more intuitive things, and if you're making a whole universe and you're making it tie into a bigger arc, then you're basically telling the fans or telling the people, we think you're smart enough, not saying other people who don't care about that aren't smart. That's not what I'm saying. We think you're smart enough, or we think that fans like this like when we do consistent continuity arcs. And since we've been doing that with tying everything into our TV shows, that means that things matter. That's why for you to get Deadpool and Wolverine, even though you can enjoy it as it is, there are still beats in there that are tied into Loki, and we've taken narrative plot devices or whole arcs from Loki to tie it into the movies. Yeah, we do all of that because that's what we care about. This is the kind of franchise that you're walking into. So it's expected as fans when we're coming in, that's what we're gonna continue to get, because they cared about continuity in the past, so they care about it in the future. Wait, no they don't. Now the way I think this would work is if Tony Stark, see, he's Tony Stark to me, Robert Downey Jr. would be in makeup. I mean, I think I wouldn't want him to be a Tony Stark or a version of Tony Stark that just happens to be Victor Von Doom. I would hope that Marvel or the writers who are going to be heading off this new era would make him into just Victor Von Doom, so we can see the range of his acting, but also so we can give the character a chance to shine. If we're essentially just seeing Robert Downey Jr. playing himself in a different costume, I think it's going to detract away from the character of Victor Von Doom. So I'm gonna be already looking at this character as, oh, it's Tony Stark, a variant of Tony Stark, instead of, oh my God, who's this new villain and character that I've never seen before from scratch? If they're going to go with the angle of, oh, he's evil Tony Stark, I don't think that a lot of people are gonna be okay with that, especially given that this is following the loss of Tony Stark. And then they're gonna make him come back and face off with Tom Holland, and he's gonna be redeemed, or Tom Holland's gonna be like, I don't want to hurt him because he's my father, sort of. If anything, it could be a look into the psyche of Spider-Man and how he's gonna have to deal with making very painful decisions. And maybe that's a way to handicap the character, because I can imagine if I went to an alternate version of our reality and I saw my dad, but he's a super villain, I think I would have a lot lot of trouble having to put him down. Like, it's painful even thinking about it. But I know that people want to give him a chance to also be shown as a big villain, but they don't want to waste Robert Downey Jr. I get it, but then why not save him until the very end then to kill him off? You know what's also funny to me? They brought all these people back. Tony Stark made this humongous sacrifice, and yet we still have supervillains that makes it seem as though the snap never happened. That's what's rich to me. This is all part of the same Marvel universe. It's not like it's some different phase now. Like with comics, you have different things, and the comic medium is a little different. So all of those issues, you can excuse that because narratively, it's way easier to put out a lot of these comics than these movies since they're so freaking expensive and cost as much as every single country's freaking treasury combined just to make. But it does feel like a lazy cash grab considering that we already had an emotional conclusion to the MCU with Endgame. So now it's like, well, we're just gonna keep beating this dead horse until it's a skeleton, and then we're gonna grind them bones into freaking ash. And not even then will we stop grinding it until this freaking soil is thoroughly set on fire by the sheer friction of her ass cheeks being ground down to their freaking bone tips. Emotional beats like the ones we got with Tony dying and certain people not coming back are supposed to be transitory. It's not supposed to be this recurring thing where you see the face of the character over and over again. While I understand where they're coming from and where they might be going with it, I don't think that it's a good idea, especially given the state of Marvel right now, but I could be wrong. But just judging on how I personally feel about it, it doesn't personally make me excited to see this because it, to me, looks as though they are just plodding along and hoping that people will just be blind to what they're doing and just keep them in business for as long as it counts. I gave you a good story, but now we need to continue that story, like what they did with Walking Dead and Negan. And then it just kept going for a long time after that with all these spin-offs that, yeah, they're kind of sort of entertaining, but you notice they're nowhere near as popular as the show, and people just took a nosedive in viewership with The Walking Dead after the whole Negan thing because it was just useless. People were just existing and walking around for no freaking reason. You didn't even get them the satisfying ending that they wanted. We got Endgame, we got, what was the other one with all the Spider-Men coming in, Far From Home, we got that, but they've opened up this can of worms with the multiverse now that it's going to be very hard to put it back unless they completely reboot the whole thing, which I think they don't want to do because they probably have no idea how to do it, or they realize it would have to be a pretty big sacrifice to do so, starting from the ground up, and they seem to be creatively bankrupt at the moment that they don't even know how to do that or remember how to do it. By the way, the guy in the audience that was heard saying it's Robert Downey Jr. right before he was revealed is a piece of shit. If you had a friend with you or anybody watching this that was going to be waiting for the reveal, you just took that from them. What was the point of you even recording this or saying that in the first place? You just ruined the whole reveal, bro. Like, it's not necessary. I'm glad that when I watched this for the first time, I didn't actually hear his voice say that. I saw it on Twitter, and it was at the part right before Robert Downey Jr. unveiled himself, but like a section before that, the guy's like, it's Robert Downey Jr. Bitch, you could have shut your freaking mouth.
Who could play Victor Von Doom?
Robert Downey Jr.
You hear that stupid sausage mouth? He's a one guy, and he said it mad loud too. Like, if there's anybody around him and they didn't know, you just ruined that for them, you fucking asshole. I really do think that in some cases, people should be allowed to carry around water balloons that, you know, have water in them only, so that you can pop them in people's faces for situations like this. You cur. Anyway, could this work? Maybe so. Do I think it's the best idea? Absolutely not. And then is Pepper gonna see him and be like, ooh, I've missed you. Let's go to the room and hug each other. I also liked how they tried to kind of sneak and ease it in with what they did in spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine, but for what they did with Johnny Storm or the Flame On guy and Captain America, but that played into the parody of it. That made more sense because in the realms of Deadpool, it's funny. It would have been funnier if they did this beforehand and then they made the Deadpool and Wolverine movie with that joke. But considering they're seriously considering this being a part of the MCU, it doesn't make it funny. It just makes it kind of sad. But yeah, I don't know. Let's give them a chance and see what happens. I don't know if this is gonna be enough to save the MCU. It's gonna need a lot more than just one success. Guardians of the Galaxy couldn't save it, and neither could Deadpool and Wolverine. At some point, point, they're gonna be fresh out of cameos. Either that or nobody's gonna really care. It's like you laugh at one person's joke who's never had anyone laugh at them before, and they're like, oh my god, people like that. Let me keep telling the same joke over and over and over again every chance I get. Funny, right, guys? Remember, wasn't it funny like the first 30 times, and the people at the table are just rubbing their temples until a hole is formed in them because they don't know how to tell this person because they've already done it a million times, that the joke is no longer funny and is no longer a joke because you keep just redoing it over and over again and rinsing and reusing and repeating? Watch, if this movie does well, they're gonna do the same thing with a bunch of other actors. Robert Downey Jr. is not gonna be the only one, I swear to you. Anyways, what do you guys think? You think this is a good idea, or do you think it's going to crash and burn?